Good morning. Oh my goodness. I have so much stuff going on this morning and none of it was planned. And so here we are. And I'm glad that you're joining me for breakfast this morning. And today we're talking eggs. And even before we're talking eggs, I just want to share with you, I am so excited. I ordered a tripod last night so I don't have to jury rig anymore and have all these little phone drops. So that's the entertainment for the day, but I'm hoping that's ending. So my tripod comes on Friday. I'm so excited. And we'll see if things can be a little bit better. So it's getting better every time, and I appreciate you hanging in there with me. And I wanted to start talking about some foods. A lot of times my clients have trouble with getting breakfast in the morning. I don't know about you. So if you're watching, post in the comments below what you had for breakfast. So I'm going to start out with this session. Today is going to be about eggs. And that's one of my favorite breakfasts because you can do a lot with them. I tend to do the same thing over and over because it's easy. I don't have to think. It's healthy and I like it. So it's just part of my routine. But whatever it is that you love about breakfast, post in the comments, or if you have a challenge with breakfast, what I hear the most is, I don't have time for breakfast. I get up, I take a shower, I fly out the door. So I have some solutions for that, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And depending on what you're interested in, what kind of foods you like, I have some solutions for you for breakfast. And we can make some more. I'm not making smoothies today, I'm just making eggs. But I have some more ideas for things to step into that we can do some demos on. You can see how to do it and blow some questions by about what alternatives are. Even things with flours, even for people who are gluten-free, there are options with some high-protein, non-gluten flours or protein shakes and different kinds of proteins for that. So those are other things that we can talk about. Today's going to be about eggs, though, and I've tried to position the camera so that you can see the cutting board and the pan. My favorite, I need a hot pad for this. I'll just use my washcloth. So my favorite, and it's starting to get really hot now, my favorite pan to use is a cast iron skillet. And the reason is because if you season it well enough, it's going to act like a nonstick pan. Now, my daughter and my husband have a little problem with that. It doesn't act as nonstick for them. But I think the key, and the same thing when you're looking at another healthy pan to use would be a ceramic pan. Both the ceramic pan and the iron pan are, hi Della, welcome. I know it's a little late for breakfast for you, but thanks for joining me. So the difference with pans that are sticking, that are non-stick, it has a lot to do with the heat. So if you preheat the pan, which is what I've done, even though it's a little bit warm now, if you preheat the pan, the pores will open up and take in the food quickly so that they don't grab it and hold on to it. If the pores are slowly awakening as the food's in it, it tends to attach to the pores and the molecules in the food, and then it sticks. So start out with a hot pan, hot enough for the temperature that you're cooking at. If you're using a ceramic pan, that's going to be medium heat or lower. For a cast iron pan, it just depends on the temperature that you like to cook. But start with it hot before you put the food in. And I like to use extra virgin olive oil or extra virgin coconut oil for my cooking because it can take the heat and the smoke point is very high. So it's a little bit healthier to cook with. And I'm pretty generous with the fats that I use. One thing that people have misunderstanding about with fats is, I could just chunk this in there just a second. Can't do two things at the same time, I guess. So I'm pretty generous with my fat, as you can see. There's a pretty good clump in there. I guess I don't have it positioned. So there's quite a bit in there. This is going to be absorbed by the food, and some of it's going to be absorbed by the pan. Maybe I have a little bit too much in there. Got a little too overexcited with the video. By doing that, your food is going to have a higher fat content. But the thing about fat is that fat doesn't necessarily make you fat. When fat is making people fat, it has more to do, let me take this off right now, but it has more to do with how much other foods you're getting in. And both fats and carbohydrates, which would be your sugars and your starches, they both convert to energy in your body. If you have more of one than the other, that's fine as long as your body is digesting that appropriately. If you have a lot of carbs and a lot of fats, the carbs are going to get burned up first, and what's ever left over, the fats, are going to be stored. If you have a low carb diet, it's possible that you will go into a ketogenic state, which means that your body is actually burning the fat for energy. Until you deplete all of your other carbohydrates that are floating around in your body, though, that doesn't happen. So if you want to have more fat in your diet, that's great. Fat is really good for you. It's fantastic for your nervous system. We need fat in our diet. And you've noticed that people with a low-fat diet have lower energy often, and they're totally dependent on the carbohydrates for perking themselves back up. And their brain function is a little bit lower. So you don't want that. So start with a good fat. And olive oil is another good fat, but not for cooking. That doesn't take the heat as well. That would be for cool foods, like salads, things that you're not cooking and heating up. So we'll start with the coconut oil, and then I use a lot of frozen veggies. I buy my veggies frozen, and I just put them out in a bowl like this the night before in the fridge. And I have some onion and some broccoli and some cauliflower. Now, if you have thyroid issues, if you're hypothyroid, you might want to limit that, have some other veggies in there. Otherwise, these are super, super nutritious vegetables. And we're just going to chop them up real quick into small bits. The smaller the better for the eggs that I'm making, because I make it more omelet-like without the fold. It's a lazy way. And I like the smaller bits so that the egg can get all the way around it. So eggs are a super nutritious food. They have, a lot of people have, we've had some bad raps about eggs, and that has to do with the cholesterol. And let me tell you, cholesterol in eggs doesn't necessarily raise the cholesterol in your body. About 30%, well, yeah, about 30% of people might be a little hypersensitive to eggs where it would raise it, but that leaves 70% of us where it doesn't bump our cholesterol, our blood cholesterol at all. So we'll just shove this into here. So you can see this can be super quick. This is heated. It could have been heated just a second before I did this. I usually do a couple of eggs because I have a couple of cups of vegetables here, and I like to have it all contained and bonded with an egg. So I'll do 2 eggs. And the eggs that I usually use are pasture raised. Now, this is the brand that I'm using today. I usually have there's a message there. I usually have some farmer eggs from my farmer that's local, but the hens are not cooperating right now too much. They're working on laying, but it's still a little cold. It's still wintry, and that takes a while for them to get to the laying. So we'll just mix this up until everything is touched with egg. And this whole process, if you have your vegetables thawed, and if they're frozen, then they're pre-blanched, so they're semi-cooked. So if you have your vegetables thawed when you show up in the morning, this takes 10 minutes or less. So we'll just move this oil around a little bit, plunk them in. And you can throw some turmeric down if you want some extra anti-inflammatories. I do some sea salt and some nice fresh black pepper. If you're doing turmeric, you can do turmeric right from your spice cupboard. Well, let's see, what do I got here? So you can do something as simple as this to add a little bit of anti-inflammatory. I've got little messages here, so I can't even see what I'm doing. This is anti-inflammatory. It works best with a little pepper. I have a recipe for a turmeric shot, which is if you're really having some pains, I suggest that instead. But anything you put this on is going to help you. Pepper helps activate it. So there's already pepper in here. Throw some of this on. This is also a component in curry, so curry is something you can also use. This is a little more concentrated. And then I usually, where is my lid? Here's my lid. So I usually put a lid on this because there's enough thickness to these eggs. Let me see if I can show you there. There's a little bit of thickness to these eggs. So I'll put a lid on so that can cook a little bit more. So when I flip it, it's a little more flippable. Let's see if I can get this right. The tripod's coming. I can't wait. So as far as eggs go, does anybody have any questions about eggs and whether they are a healthy choice or not a healthy choice? There are some studies about the lutein being bad for men with their prostates. So that's something to look into, and if you have a tendency toward that in your family history, you might want to look at that. Otherwise, there really isn't anything that I can say bad about eggs. They have 6 grams of protein per egg, and that's about the cheapest protein that you can get. So it's affordable. It's really high quality protein, especially if you get like an omega-3 fed hen egg or a pasture-raised egg. That's a little bit better as far as the nourishment goes. And you can tell even in the colors. You can tell that there are more B vitamins in an egg like that than one by a factory-raised indoor hen. There's no carbs, no sugars in an egg. That's a boon. There's 22% selenium. Selenium is a micronutrient for us, but it's very important to our function, to our body function. You can also get that in 3 Brazil nuts a day, raw, please. But this is a really easy way to get it in. And choline. Choline is really, really important to building our cell membranes. And in order to do that, we need about 300 milligrams, and each egg has about 100. So, you know, that's a really good boon for the health of our cells, especially with all the other toxins that we're exposed to in the environment, in our skin care, and the cleaners that we use, which we'll talk about that another time. But this helps to protect those by creating new cells that are super healthy. The yolks, the choline is in the yolks, and that is what helps us with our normal cell activity. It also is really key if you know a pregnant mom. Make sure that they're getting a lot of choline. It will be in their prenatals, but also you can get it in foods. And I'm all about whole foods whenever possible, because that's what our body is accustomed to taking it in as. So it's going to take it in a little bit better than a supplement that is a singular ingredient that doesn't have all the other stuff around it that it would naturally occur in. What else have we got? The protein is mainly in the whites. If you have to be protective of your lutein, I recommend 2 egg whites to 1 egg yolk. But normally I just do a whole 2 eggs. And on the cholesterol aspect, there's a lot of cholesterol in an egg. They are right about that. There's about 213 milligrams of cholesterol in an egg, and they recommend dietarily that we have no more than 300.